Maybe you've been using Replit or Lovable for a while now, building apps, testing ideas, but then one day you realize, wait, there's more I could be doing. If I started running code on my own machine, I could actually install an LLM and run it locally, in case of the zombie apocalypse. Or maybe you've been eyeing N8N and thinking, why am I paying for yet another subscription when I could just host my own server? I think that's it. You've just crossed into the CLI coding zone. If that's where you're at, curious but a little unsure of all the steps involved in using a command line interface tool like Claude Code or Gemini CLI, and maybe some of the terminal commands make you a little nervous, this video is for you. I want to show you 3 tools and 1 bonus tip that make that leap way less scary. When I first started with command line tools like Codex and Claude Code, I was a little intimidated. I knew just enough to get things started, but not enough to get myself out of trouble. I wanted a second pair of eyes watching over me while I worked. So I gathered my own little team of AI assistants. They help me every time I start a new project or wish I had a teammate to answer a question. The first thing you'll need is the brains of the operation. This is your command line interface tool, something like Claude Code, Codex, or Gemini CLI. These are the tools that allow you to talk to the AI model right from your terminal window rather than just through a chat window. And they allow the AI access to your machine, with your permissions, of course. Gemini CLI is free and quite capable, although it is due for an upgrade any day now. Use of Claude Code or Codex comes with paid subscriptions to their chat plans, so if you're already a paid subscriber to one of those tools are definitely worth taking a look. And of course, there are many, many others to choose from. They each have their own strengths and their own quirks, but they can all code your project, write your files, debug, and explain what's going on under the hood. And yeah, installing them for the first time can feel a little bit intimidating. You usually install from a GitHub repo, like this one for Google Gemini CLI. If you scroll down to the README section, there's usually really good installation instructions, but they can feel a little bit cryptic if you're not sure exactly which one to follow. That's where the first teammate comes in, Warp. Warp is an AI-powered terminal that actually makes the command line feel friendly. You can type commands in just like a normal terminal window, or just tell it what you want in natural language, or ask it a question. It's available for Mac, and if you scroll down to the very bottom, it does show that it's also available for Linux or Windows users. There is a free version, which is what I have been using until very recently, and the free version gave me ample credit allowance for all of my needs. So Warp is super helpful when you can't quite remember, or maybe don't even know all of the shell commands you need to navigate around in terminal. So you can say things like, how do I see the hidden files? Use ls-a to show hidden files. Hidden files are those files that start with dot, or ls-la to show hidden files with detailed information. You can basically tell it to do anything in plain English that you can't quite remember the command how to do. You can say, make a copy of this file, move this file to that directory, make a directory. And remember that GitHub repo that we were looking at? You can just copy that URL, paste it into Warp, and say something like, can you help me install this? And Warp will go off and do its thing. It's going to make sure you have all the prerequisites. If you don't, it's going to install those for you or ask you if it's okay to install. And then finally, it'll say, is it okay if I run this command and read the output? Just keep hitting accept along the way. And in general, you will be gold. This has helped me with a ton of things. Sometimes I'm following an installation guide and I don't quite understand that the process might be different for Mac versus for whoever was doing the initial install on their machine in the first place. Perfect. Gemini CLI is now good to go. Of all the tools I'm advising today, I would say this is the #1 tool that has helped me the most and just keeps you from feeling like you're in over your head with no way out. I really cannot recommend it enough. The next tool, your voice, specifically a speech-to-text translation tool. I recommend using this kind of tool whenever possible. Personally, I use superwhisper. It's my favorite tool in this category. For the longest time, it was only available on Mac. I have heard from one of my viewers that it's now available on Windows, but I have not been able to confirm that on their website. So you can use any voice-to-text tool that you like. A lot of people like superwhisper. There's usually a native tool built into your computer, and a lot of tools have some sort of voice dictation system built in these days. I've used superwhisper for a really long time, and it has a lot of features that I just really like, so much so that I did a separate video on all of the reasons why superwhisper is the best tool for my needs. You can go check that out if you're interested, but really what I'm advocating here is using a tool and just give yourself the freedom to ask questions like you're 12 years old. How do I install Node? How do I check to see if my development server is already running? To me, this is just one of the biggest unlocks. I use superwhisper all the time when I'm working and just lets my thoughts form more freely like they would when I'm talking to a friend. Oh, you know what would be really cool? I want an app that has like two input fields, or no, like an input field and a drop-down menu that you could select from. And I wanted to keep track of how many times I ate pizza last month too. That's just so much easier than trying to think and type a full sentence at the same time. I have used both the free and the paid plans in superwhisper, and they're both excellent depending on your usage. All right, so now you've got the CLI tool that you want, the enhanced terminal tool that you need, and you've got the ability to speak to them and ask them to do things for you. That's really all you need to get started. But the next two tools are more about ease of use and productivity enhancement, as well as your own learning enhancement. So next up on my list, I have Cursor. Now, Cursor is a full-blown AI coding tool in its own right. But that's not how I'm recommending that we use it here necessarily. If you're not familiar with Cursor, it's a free tool you can use to view and edit files in your project. It does have AI built in, and while you certainly can use that, I really use it mainly for the file viewing and editing. Because while you can definitely just do that from your terminal, how do I open a file for editing? Sometimes it's just nice to be able to use a tool that feels a little bit more like a traditional text editor. This is Cursor, and you can see a list of files in your project over on the left, and then the file that you're working on in your main view. And you can just type and edit like you usually would. So while I do most of my coding with Codex or Claude in a Warp terminal, I almost always have a Cursor window open as well. I feel like sometimes we think about things in an either-or kind of way, either the IDE or the terminal, but why can't it be both? This way, we have the best of both worlds. And finally, the last tool I'm recommending is your favorite chat system. It might feel like overkill because we have AI in all of our other tools, but having one more in constant conversational mode just gives you another place to ask questions, or it sometimes gives you a different perspective on things. What is React and when would I use it? This could be Claude, ChatGPT, Perplexity. It doesn't matter. Whatever your favorite system is the one to use. When you hit an error that just doesn't make sense, or if you're told to do something that you don't understand, you can just paste it in and ask a question. This is helpful, especially when it's something you feel like you should know, or you think you kind of understand, but you're not 100% clear on. Just ask your chat system either to explain it to you like you don't understand, or you try to explain what you think it is to your chat system and let it tell you where you're right and where maybe you're missing a few pieces of information. It can just fill in those gaps for you. How do I open the developer console on my browser? You've got an infinitely patient teacher sitting right there. And the only way you learn is by asking questions and doing. Stepping into the command line tool space the first time can feel a little bit scary. Like one wrong command could put you into a state you can't get out of. I get that. I definitely felt the same way. But this team of tools was my magic unlock. It made me feel like, yeah, I can do that. Hopefully, the combination of some or all of these tools will give you that same sense of confidence to move forward with that project that you've been thinking about tackling, but have just been maybe a little bit nervous to take the first step or not even really sure how to even get started. So I really want to encourage you, if you're at all curious about it, download these tools and just give it a try. I think you'll be surprised at how much easier it can make things. All right, that's it for today. Links to all the tools that I mentioned are in the description below. If you found this helpful, please hit that like or subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.